Hello and welcome to Weekly News Highlights, where we bring you some of the biggest stories that made the headlines this week. I'm Peunji. President Yoon Suk-yeol is set to visit the Philippines, Singapore, and Laos as part of a 6-day Southeast Asia trip to attend the annual summit of ASEAN nations next week. There, he may also hold a bilateral summit with the new Japanese Prime Minister, Shigeru Ishiba. Marking this year's Armed Forces Day, the military unveiled its most powerful ballistic missile yet, the Hyunmoo-5, capable of hitting North Korea's underground bunkers. Asia's largest film festival, which takes place every year in Busan, kicked off this Wednesday. This year, a total of more than 200 films from over 60 countries will be screened throughout the 10-day event. President Yoon Suk-yeol will have a full week of diplomacy as he travels to Southeast Asia on Sunday, ahead of the annual summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and the East Asia Summit, which will take place in Laos. But before the multilateral events, Yoon will stop by the Philippines and Singapore. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young is in studio with us today to tell us more about the significance of this trip. Welcome, Soo-young.
Hi, and it's great to be here.
So, Soo-young, first let's begin with the stopovers in the Philippines and Singapore. So you reported this week that there will be major economic diplomacy going on, but tell us more about the diplomatic significance of this trip.
Sure, Lindsay. So strengthening ties with individual ASEAN countries is hugely important for South Korea, especially as Seoul and the 10-member organization are upgrading their ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership this year. Now, closer cooperation with ASEAN is part of Seoul's greater Indo-Pacific strategy that aims for regional peace and prosperity. So this not only means increasing trade ties, like you said, but also expanding political and security cooperation. Because stability in this region, as you know, faces various challenges from North Korea's security threats to maritime disputes and trade uncertainty due to geopolitical rifts and growing economic protectionism. For the Philippines, South Korea is an attractive security partner, given Korea's military capacity and defense technology. Last year, they agreed to work together on the maritime front amid tensions in the South China Sea. So it seems they will follow up on that this year too, with consideration of their respective alliances with the United States, of course, and that's according to a presidential official when I asked. Now, as for Singapore, President Yoon will meet with all three top leaders, political leaders of the city-state, including Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, who took office earlier this year.
Right, then President Yoon heads over to the ASEAN Summit, where he will take part in the same annual gatherings. But now all eyes are on whether the summit between President Yoon and the new Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba will take place.
That's right, Unji. The two leaders have in fact already spoken on the phone on Wednesday, not too long after Ishiba took office and had his first phone call with President Joe Biden of the US. Now, during that 15-minute conversation, the Korean and Japanese leaders discussed the need to cooperate on North Korea and also the need to continue deepening their bilateral ties. Significantly, they agreed to meet up frequently, continuing the so-called shuttle diplomacy or top-level visits that President Yoon and former Prime Minister Fumio Kishida had engaged in since last year to drastically improve bilateral ties. Now, Yoon and Ishida ended the call agreeing to meet at the earliest opportunity for candid discussions, which will likely be during the ASEAN summit. A presidential official told reporters that Seoul and Tokyo are indeed talking about it, based on the assumption, though not a confirmation, that Ishiba will attend the regional gathering. So all of this, these are all positive signs coming from their very first phone call. And now how will they get along? Now, it might be hard to replicate the sort of genuine trust and friendship that Yoon and Kishida had formed over the past year and a half over their shared interest in improving bilateral ties, as well as their rather cozy dinners with their wives. But Ishiba is considered dovish when it comes to South Korea, unlike the right-wing faction of Japanese politicians who dismissed Japan's wartime atrocities in the 20th century. So Ishiba would also like to see stronger security cooperation across the region, so some promising prospects there for bilateral ties. Here's what Dr. Kim Suk-hyun had to say.
Ishiba is someone who has a personal sense of political philosophy. He's someone who will prioritize Japan's national interests. While he may be relatively weaker in domestic or economic policy, he will likely focus on achieving significant accomplishments in the security field, where he is confident. Rather than being constrained by historical issues, he may aim for greater security cooperation with South Korea and broader regional relations in East Asia. I also think there is potential for further improvement in Korea-Japan relations, especially with the upcoming 60th anniversary of normalized diplomatic ties next year. If the two leaders are willing, there could even be a joint statement marking the occasion.
And Soo-young, if they are to meet, what will be on the agenda?
Well, Yoon and Ishiba will discuss how to improve their bilateral ties, how to further improve it, rather, in light of their 60th anniversary next year, and how to address North Korea's nuclear threat to Seoul and Tokyo, of course. But experts say a bigger point of discussion may be the future of the trilateral cooperation with the United States. Now, the three countries at Camp David last year agreed not only on deterring North Korea and cooperating on regional security, but also pledged to work together on economic security, supply chains, health, cutting-edge technologies, as well as development assistance for Pacific Island countries. With a new American leader to take office next January, Yoon and Ishiba will likely look to stabilize the trilateral relationship, as Harris and Trump or any other US leader is unlikely to be as pro-alliance as President Joe Biden is.
All right, we'll have to wait and see what happens at ASEAN.
That's right, and as ever, waiting and seeing.
Thank you for your report today, Soo-young.
It's my pleasure to be here.
October 1st marks Armed Forces Day here in South Korea. During this year's ceremony to celebrate the annual event, the military unveiled the country's most powerful ballistic missile yet, the Hyunmoo-5. Capable of carrying one of the world's largest warheads, weighing up to 8 tons, the missile is powerful enough to hit an enemy's underground bunker at a depth of 100 meters or more. The country started to develop the Hyunmoo-5 in 2016, right after North Korea's fourth nuclear test, aimed at targeting the regime's command center in case of a nuclear attack from the regime.
The size, all of that is impressive, but what I was impressed with was the way that the erector launcher was able to move sideways. If you notice very closely, the wheels enable it to move sideways, which is not easy. So it was a good showcase of capabilities.
President Yoon observed Armed Forces Day in an airbase south of Seoul and warned that the North Korean regime will come to an end the very day it attempts to use nuclear weapons. His remarks came as the military launched a new command to deter the North.
더욱 단단해진 한미 동맹을 토대로 끊임없이 노력한 결과 마침내 우리 군의 첨단 재래식 능력과 미국의 확장 억제 능력을 통합하는 전략사령부를 창설하게 됐습니다.
The new unit will exercise integrated control over South Korea's key military assets, including the Hyunmoo series of ballistic missiles, stealth fighter jets, and 3,000-ton submarines. And South Korea has signed a deal to buy hundreds of military-use drones from Poland, the same type of weapons that are being used in the Ukraine war. This appears to be part of the country's efforts to counter evolving threats from North Korea after the regime recently unveiled its suicide drones. A drone falls from the sky and destroys a tank. This is a still image North Korea released in August, saying that it had tested its so-called suicide drones. The regime's leader, Kim Jong-un, oversaw the test, as drones took off and destroyed test targets, including a mock tank. The North State media said Kim urged researchers to develop artificial intelligence for unmanned vehicles.
He emphasized that we must actively adopt technology and equip the Korean People's Army units with these technologies as soon as possible.
To respond to these threats, South Korea on Wednesday announced that it has signed a deal with Poland to buy the country's war-made drones. Developed by WB Electronics, war-made loitering munitions are equipped with a high-explosive warhead, can remain airborne for up to 70 minutes, and fly at a maximum speed of up to 150 kilometers per hour when carrying out an attack. War-made drones have actually been used in the Ukraine war, as they were provided by Poland to help destroy Russian armored vehicles. A South Korean Defense Ministry official explained that the military and relevant authorities have thoroughly checked the drone's capabilities, adding that the quality has already been verified through their use in the Ukraine war. The Defense Ministry did not elaborate further on the deal, but it will reportedly involve the purchase of around 200, worth more than $10 million. They will be sent to South Korea starting next month and will be deployed to combat units before the end of this year. Also on Wednesday, South Korea's Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun met Poland's Vice Defense Minister and agreed to closely communicate to continue defense and arms cooperation. Since the start of the Ukraine war, Poland has bought a number of South Korean weapon systems, including K-9 howitzers, K-2 tanks, F-A-50 fighters, and Tommo multiple rocket launch systems. As drones continue to change modern warfare, both Koreas are working to prepare for future conflicts. North Korea is allegedly preparing to revoke a historic agreement with the South, a move that could once again escalate tensions on the peninsula. The Inter-Korean Basic Agreement, signed over 30 years ago, has long been a key document in maintaining peace and cooperation between the two Koreas. Our correspondent Kim Jung-sil explains.
Seoul has expressed concerns over Pyongyang potentially amending its constitution at its upcoming Supreme People's Assembly on October 7th, including possibly ending the 33-year-old Inter-Korean Basic Agreement. A senior official from the Ministry of Unification said Wednesday that proposed amendments, including changes to maritime border regulations and the regime's leader Kim Jong-un's determination to remove terms such as peace for reunification, could lead to the nullification of the Basic Agreement. The agreement, signed in 1991, has been a cornerstone of inter-Korean relations, defining them as a temporary special relationship aimed at reunification. This contrasts with Kim's recent directives, with Pyongyang already having annulled an economic agreement with South Korea in February. The Unification Ministry official noted North Korea's increasingly hostile stance toward the South could lead to further organizational changes within its Ministry of Foreign Affairs. These changes may also be part of the North's efforts to devise new strategies in response to the upcoming U.S. presidential election. The official added that Seoul is also monitoring whether the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty signed between Moscow and Pyongyang in June will be ratified at the Supreme People's Assembly. The official noted the potential for rising tensions on the Korean peninsula as North Korea appears to be institutionalizing hostile relations against the South. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
Over in the Middle East, Israeli military said it had hit Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters in Beirut. U.S. President Joe Biden signaled possible Israeli strikes on Iran's oil facilities, which has led to a spike in oil prices. Our Ishiu reports.
Large plumes of smoke rose from Beirut's southern suburbs on Thursday as multiple Israeli attacks struck the area, one of which targeted Hezbollah's intelligence agency. The Israel Defense Forces said in a statement that they attacked Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters, responsible for aggregating intelligence about Israel and its military. Lebanese state media NNA confirmed there were 3 airstrikes on the Lebanese capital. The strikes also flattened several residential buildings. This follows an earlier attack on Hezbollah's media office, also in southern Beirut. Meanwhile, the U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said the U.S. was well-postured to defend U.S. personnel, allies, and partners in the face of threats from Iran and Iran-backed terrorist organizations. The Pentagon shared the message in a statement after Austin spoke to his Israeli counterpart on Tuesday, hours after Iran fired ballistic missiles at Israel. And the widening conflict in the Middle East is causing market worries with oil prices rising. Brent crude futures settled up over 5% on Thursday at $77.62 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures also settled up over 5% at $73.71. Both futures also hit intraday one-month highs. This is while market fears rise over the possibility of Israel targeting Iranian oil infrastructure in the near future. Lee Si-hu, Arirang News.
Addressing the latest situation in the Middle East, President Yoon Suk-yeol has ordered a military transport aircraft to be sent to the region to evacuate South Korean nationals. The announcement came on Wednesday after Yoon hosted a related emergency meeting with his top security and economic aides. Yoon stressed the most important task was ensuring the safety of South Koreans in the region. Currently, there are around 130 Koreans in Lebanon. At the meeting, the president also ordered that a 24-hour monitoring system be set up for the uncertain situation. The presence of self-employed workers in the country has shrunk to below 20% of the total workforce for the first time since data collection began. Our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin reports.
The share of self-employed individuals in South Korea's workforce has fallen below the 20% level for the first time. According to Statistics Korea on Monday, based on monthly average figures from January to August this year, there were 5.6 million self-employed individuals. That's 19.7% of the total employed population, the first time that figure has dropped below 20% since related data was first collected in 1963. And these figures are unlikely to see much change with only a couple of months left in the year. The share of self-employed individuals has been seeing a downward trend since first recording 37.2% in 1963, and then falling below the 30% mark in 1989, and narrowly avoiding falling below 20% last year. This has led to the share of non-wage workers, which includes self-employed and people working their family business, falling to a record low of 22.8% this year, nearly one-third of the 68.5% recorded in 1963. The proportion of people working in their family business came to 3.1% out of the total employed this year. But the share of non-wage workers still remains relatively high compared to the rest of the OECD. Out of the 30 OECD nations, South Korea came in at 5th last year behind Colombia, Mexico, Chile, and Costa Rica. The share of wage workers, on the other hand, came to 77.2%, a significant increase from the 31.5% in 1963. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
On the back of robust demand for Korean instant noodles, snacks, and processed rice products, South Korea's exports of agricultural goods reached a record high during the first 9 months of this year. According to the Agriculture Ministry, exports of agricultural goods rose more than 8% on year, amounting to $7.38 billion between January and September. Exports of instant noodles or ramen in Korean jumped around 30% on year to a record high of $938 million. Processed rice products such as kimbap also soared more than 41% and have already surpassed last year's total sales. Exports of snacks gained more than 15% on year, while those of beverages also climbed more than 13%. As the South Korean economy starts to see signs of recovery led by strong exports, the government has announced measures to improve weak domestic demand. During an economic ministerial meeting on Wednesday, South Korea's finance minister said the government will release reserves of cabbage and extend tariff quotas for certain products, including some imported fruit, as part of efforts to stabilize prices. For electric vehicles, which saw a decrease in demand, he pledged to implement additional measures, including early implementation of the battery certification system and the expansion of corporate liability insurance. He also announced plans to expand subsidies for households with multiple children who wish to purchase electric vehicles. Shifting gears, the annual Busan International Film Festival, Asia's largest in scale, is currently underway. Our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin has the report from Busan.
It's that time of the year when cinema lights up South Korea's southern port city of Busan. The annual Busan International Film Festival began on Wednesday with the opening ceremony at the Busan Cinema Center, with actors, directors, and producers gracing the red carpet. This year, 278 films will be screened over 10 days, including side events. Of those, 224 films from 63 countries are a part of the official selection, up 15 films from last year. So this year's Busan International Film Festival, in a keyword or phrase, could be described as mainstream appeal. And that's because when compared to previous editions, this year's BIFF is focused on expanding its reach beyond cinephiles to engage a broader audience. For the first time in the festival's history, a streaming original, Netflix's Uprising, was selected as the opening film. The action drama starring Kang Dong-won and Park Jung-min, with Cannes-winning filmmaker Park Chan-wook as producer and scriptwriter, is set to premiere on the platform next Friday.
I'm so happy our film was chosen as the opening film and to be back at the festival after so long. I have a lot of fight scenes with other characters and worked hard to express various emotions.
RM Right People Wrong Place, a documentary showing BTS member RM's journey of making his solo album, will make its world premiere here. Another standout feature is how several of the films that'll be showcased have already been recognized at prestigious international film festivals, such as Grand Tour by Portuguese filmmaker Miguel Gomez, who was named Best Director at this year's Cannes Film Festival. The opportunity to enjoy a diverse range of films is an exciting experience for the audience, particularly for those with an interest in or connection to the film industry.
My impression is that the Busan International Film Festival has a pretty solid reputation and is up there with some of the film festivals that get the most traction culturally. I'm so excited to see a film that my friends produced, and it's a film that takes place here in South Korea and Jeju Island.
I am majoring in film production, and I hope someday the movie I film could be screened at the Busan International Film Festival.
Those interested can reserve tickets on the festival's official website or on-site. 송유진, Arirang News, Busan.
South Korean pianist Im Yoon-chan won the Gramophone Classical Music Awards for the piano category in London on Wednesday. Two of his albums, Liszt's Transcendental Etudes and Chopin's Etudes, were shortlisted, with Chopin's Etudes winning by a single vote. Im is the first South Korean to win the Gramophone Piano Award and the first ever to have two of his albums shortlisted. The 20-year-old pianist was also named the Gramophone Young Artist of the Year 2024 for his flair and probing musicianship and phenomenal technique. The Gramophone Classical Music Awards began in 1977 and honors the most significant albums of the year in the classical record industry. Disney's beloved Mickey Mouse is showcased in a unique way at an art exhibition held in Seoul's Deoksugung Palace. Local artists creatively blend Disney characters with Korean heritage, offering a fresh twist for visitors. Our Iuni was there.
Disney's magic meets Korea's history. In collaboration with Disney Korea, the Korea Heritage Service is showcasing the work of 9 artists who have creatively blended Korea's royal heritage with cartoon characters from Mickey Mouse. The art exhibition is taking place at Deoksugung Palace in Dondokjeon Hall, which opened to the public last year, having been rebuilt in its original form. The universally recognizable character with his iconic red shorts and yellow shoes is Mickey Mouse, but this time he's wearing something different. Mickey and Minnie Mouse are wearing Korean wedding attire celebrating their marriage, while Donald Duck and Daisy Duck are dressed in traditional hanbok clothing. Disney characters appear in 십장생도, a painting from the Joseon dynasty that features 10 symbols representing longevity. The paintings are often given as gifts to wish for long life and chase away bad luck.
I thought Mickey 장생도 was the perfect way to celebrate the occasions of Mickey Mouse's upcoming 100th birthday and Disney's 100th anniversary, and also the restoration of Dondokjeon after 100 years. I think seeing the beloved character Mickey Mouse in traditional Korean hanbok brings a refreshing and delightful twist that many will enjoy.
Other works by different artists display the characters represented in artifacts, highlighted by different patterns, such as a lotus. Disney Korea said it was excited to work with Korean artists to bring the Disney magic to life in an unconventional way and entertain and inspire people around the world.
I was so glad to see this kind of exhibition that combines Mickey and the Korean pop art culture. Yeah.
Especially, I really enjoyed the statue in the middle, the ceramic one. The lotus and Mickey was really get along together, and it was really beautiful.
The cartoon characters that hold a special place in many childhoods can also be found at photo spots around the rest of the palace.
The exhibition runs until October 20th, so don't miss the chance to explore South Korea's history in a fun way at Dondokjeon Hall while enjoying the beauty of Deoksugung Palace in fall. 이은희, Arirang News.
And that's all for this week's edition of Weekly News Highlights. Thank you for watching. And on behalf of all of us here at Arirang News, we hope you have a great rest of the weekend.